All right, folks. Welcome back to the Blacksmith Podcast, or welcome if you're joining us for the first time. Over here, we forge guys into men. It's it's much more than just being 18 years old. We teach guys how to be men by the principles that are required and standards required for manhood. One of the things, the vision over here, right, is helping these guys become men. Is first there's some steps you have to take. So first, you have to have vision to see the man you want to become in 15 years, right? 5 years is you should be looking past 5 years, right? Number two, motivation. So you have to look this man up and down, head to toe, and see what is it that he has that you don't have. Because if you have everything the man you're going to be in 15 years has, there's no motivation for you to become him. You already are him, right? So you need to look at what he has. Does he have a home? Does he have a degree? Does he have? Is he buff and you're skinny? Is he well read and you're not? And then that's going to motivate you to become this man, right? And so then number three is the planning step. You got to get creative and you have to come up with some actionable steps to become this guy, right? You can't just look at what he has and then go off about your business. If he has a degree and you want a degree, what's the degree in? Engineering. Okay, what kind of engineering? Electrical engineering. Okay, so in order to get a degree in electrical engineering, you have to go to college. So now you reverse engineer, but pardon the pun, you reverse engineer how he got the degree. So now you sign up for college, and then you go to college 4 years and you grab your degree. Now in 15 years, you'll be that guy, at least that part, right? And then four is the action step. This is the drive that you're going to need, but you're going to take the action. So you're going to start driving that car, right? And then the fifth step, and most importantly, you need persistence and consistency, right? I go to the gym a lot. I'm an avid gym goer, and I remember being stationed on the ship probably 2 years ago. Our chaplain, he saw me, and I had just come from the gym. So not only have I consistently gone since like 2010, I was already like swelled up too. So he saw me walking back to the berthing, and he said, Chief, I need some of what you're taking. What are you taking that you get so big? And I said, you know what, chaps? I get all the steroids jokes, but I'm going to tell you something. If they test my blood, they will find something. And he goes, what are they going to find? And I said, consistency. And he let out a laugh. Everybody around us were looking at it. And he was like, I'm going to use that one, consistency. And really, that's all it takes, folks. All it takes to get buff, if you're not, is consistency. All it takes to get stamina, if you don't have it, start running. Be consistent every day. Lace up your shoes and go, right? All it takes to climb that corporate ladder is consistently performing the way you know you should. Consistency is super important. All right. So enough of that. That is the vision over here, and those are the steps. Let me move my microphone. You might hear some boom, boom, boom. So over here, that's what we talk about. That's the vision on the Blacksmith Podcast. Now, Saturdays we do a financial segment for about an hour, and this is where you get to ask all these questions about any topic that you would like to ask about. But we typically come with I typically come with a game plan. So my brother hit me with a bunch of notes and things that we could go over today. So those are things that he already talked about. He wanted to go over, so I'm going to do that. Hold on, let me see. Sorry, I'm sending a reminder to everybody that's in the channel that we are live. Sometimes people forget everybody has a life. I was supposed to do that before we went on camera. All right. So I wanted to say this before we get started, but before we got started as well. Most people work 9 to 5. Work not that was my speaker turning off. Working 9 to 5 is not a bad thing. I know social media tells you all to be entrepreneurs nowadays. Um, Chat, how's my sound? I know social media tells us all to be entrepreneurs and forget about working 9 to 5, quit your 9 to 5, and being an influencer, work for yourself. And all of that stuff is great. And I believe that is a goal that is accomplishable for some people. But let's remember, if and I'm going to talk about this. I'm still in my thunder on a video that on a series I'm going to make, but there are three types of people out there when you talk about laborers, right? There's the visionaries, whom in my series I'm going to call the architect. And those are the ones who have a vision and then they put that vision on paper or slash blueprint, right? And draw it all up. And then you have a second type of laborer who's the leader, a foreman. The visionary or architect explains the plan to the foreman or the leader, and that foreman understands it. They shake on it, and then they eke out a plan to make it happen. So they talk about the budget, the materials they're going to need, and all of that kind of stuff. And then the foreman, because they have a very important job, they have to be able to understand and speak architect, and then they have to go and then give that plan to the construction workers. And there's where most of your force is going to be. They're construction workers. Um, so most of your force is going to be construction workers. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you really look at the world today, social media tells you that there is something wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with that because 70% of people work for 30% of people. So you have more visionaries. And in that number, that 70%, your leaders are in there too. So in that percentage, only 30% of people are really visionaries. And if you look at it for all time, the world has been like that, right? So, all right. Um, Sorry, this is bad manners, but you know what? One of my guys wants to get on, and so he asked me to send him the link. Um, because I'm not doing this just for my health. I'm doing this. Of course, it keeps me sharp on this financial knowledge, but I'm doing this for everybody who wants to be more financially savvy. So with the 9 to 5s, right? Working a 9 to 5 is not wrong, right? But there's gonna come a time where you're going to want to stop working. You're going to want to do is what's called retirement. So if you look right here, we got our definition of retirement: the action or fact of leaving one's job behind and ceasing to work. So retirement, let's deal with this one: ceasing to work, because over here, this is the one that I talk about all the time. Retirement really is nothing more. There's nothing really special about the term. It's just a point at which one no longer wants to work, right? And so that is great, but have you planned for this? Because this doesn't just happen. You have to plan for this, or you're not going to retire, or you will in one sense, and you'll then become a burden. I'm getting ahead of myself. So the great, not yet late, Warren Buffett states that, and it's my favorite quote of all time that he said, was that if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. And another way to look at that is, if you don't plan for retirement, you will end up working until you die. Because if you are 65, just because you can legally draw Social Security doesn't mean that's going to be enough financial security to secure your future until you pass away, right? If you've put nothing in an IRA, an individual retirement account. Then no money is compounded. If you have $1,000 in savings, if you don't have money in your checking, where are you going to get the money to survive the rest of your life? So you know what that means. At 65, you got to keep on going. The moment you stop working, you are effectively homeless, right? So over here, we call retirement the point at which you no longer work, but you can retire, you can stop working because you have planned your financial future at the point at which you cut off working for money. Or that's more of a convoluted way to say retirement is the point at which you no longer stop working for money and your money can work for you the rest of your life. And you won't drain your accounts either. So that's key. All right. So enough of that being said, I just wanted to start with that. And I know that took a little bit, but getting to it. So today we are going to cover how to get out of debt. So the first topic is how to get out of debt. What I'm going to do, you are going to see me writing and stuff because I want to for chapters. I put chapters on the videos. The videos are long, so they need chapters so you can skip to whatever. But the auto chapters, it's like every 10 or 20 or 30 seconds, it'll say there's another chapter. That's too much. So I'm gonna make my own chapter. So I'm gonna do, where are we at? 11. I'm gonna do 12 minutes. So 12 minutes, we're gonna go into something else. So I'm just gonna write 12. All right. So getting out of debt. How do you get out of debt? Let's say you had a few things you had to pay on. Let's say you had, I don't know, four bills. Let's see if I can do. Yeah, can I pull up a whiteboard? Do y'all know of a whiteboard I can pull up? I got it. Oh, there we go. All right, let's get it. As my little 4-year-old would say. All right, so let's say you have four bills to pay off. There we go. And one of them is, let's go $500. One of them is $2,000. What is that? There we go. One of them, let's put you in some real debt here. Let's get real. One of them's $10,000. One of them's $15,000. That's enough. Oh, that's all of them, right? I can count. Let's do 50, right? Because let's say you have student loans, and that's cheap, actually. All right. So, how long will it take you to pay off all of this stuff? Who knows? But let's say for the $500 one, let's say you are paying, let's make it simple. Let's say you're paying $100 per month. All right. So now on the 2,000, let's say you're paying $100 per month. I'm not gonna put per month on all of them. Y'all get it. Let's say on the $10,000 one now, you're gonna have to pay more. So let's say this one's $300 per month. And then I'm all about uniformity. It's killing me not to put per month. All right. So it just doesn't look right. Let's say now on this one, you're paying $500 a month. So how long is it going to take you to pay all of this stuff off? So 50,000, if we take $500, come on, $500 times 12 is 6,000, right? And then if you take, clear this out. If you take 50,000 and divide that by 6 grand, it's going to take you 8.3 years to pay that off, right? Then if you took, all right, so this one's simple. The $500 one, let's say this is a credit card. If you're not using it, sorry, I walk over here. I didn't adjust my camera in the back. Let me just move my screen over. There we go. See? You got problems? Questions. We got answers. All right, here we go. So this one's only going to take you 5 months to pay off. But my brother, what he was dealing with was something extremely important called the snowball effect. All right, so hold on. He's trying to get in. He's saying this link isn't valid. All right, hold on. There you go. All right, so now that one's going to take you 5 months to pay off. And can I do text somewhere else? Okay, cool. Can I move this? Yeah. All right, here we go. I'm guessing it will. All right. So the $500 one is only going to take you 5 months to pay off. That's it, right? But you were paying $100 a month on that one. So now we're going to talk about something called the Snowball Method. If you've never heard of the Snowball Method, you should have, but you're about to learn it today. So what is the Snowball Method? The Snowball Method is this. The money that you were paying towards the $500 bill, you were not putting it into your checking or your savings. You were using it on bills. So don't, when you pay this off, put it in your pocket. Put it on the next bill. So you were paying, so currently it's going to take you 20 months to pay off the $2,000 one, right? It's going to take you 20 months. I did this because it's easy math. So it's going to take you 20 months to pay it off. However, which is almost 2 years, right? However, if you pay this off in 5 months, and then you use that $100 to put on this, now that speeds this one up, right? So now, instead of after 5 months, now you're paying $200 a month. And after 5 months, there'll only be $1,500 left to pay on that one. So now, instead of the 20 months, now you speed it up. You cut it in half, essentially. 15 months, you'll pay that in what, 7.5 months? Because it'd be $1,400 at 7 months. So at 7.5 months, now you're going to pay it off. So after the snowball, so we'll call this one the snowball method. We'll just say snowball. So after you do, let's do 15 months regular payments. Let's say after snowball, it's only going to take 7.5 months. Is that clear? Or is it everything under the 2000 is pertaining to it, right? So if that's not clear, chat, let me know. But that should be clear as day, right? So now instead of paying this off in 20 months, now what you've done, oh shoot, I put 15 months. It's only 5 months of regular payments. There we go. So 5 months of regular payments plus 7.5 is only 12.5 months. So 1 year and half of a month, right? So that's the snowball method. Now, if we take that, if when you pay this off, now you get back $200 more, right? Because in the beginning, you were paying $100 a month for this one, $100 a month for this one. Now you have $200 to snowball into the next one that you're paying $300 for. So if you look at the calculator, $300 a month times 12 is going to be $3,600 a year, right? So now if you take $10,000 divided by 3,600, you're going to pay that off in almost about 3 years. All right. But now, after 12.5 months, you're paying, that's going to be 3,600 plus 150 because it's half of a month. That's going to be 3,750, right? So you've paid 3,750. Let me show you the math on that. I'm just talking if I don't show you the math. So we already said, so that's a year and a half, right? A year, 0.5 months. Y'all get what I'm saying. Hopefully that's right? Yeah. Because every month is going to bring you $300. So that's $36. Now half of a month is going to bring you an extra 150, right? So 3,750. Why did I have 12.5? That's the only thing that's throwing me off. Oh, it's 12.5 months. Yeah, that's throwing me off. Okay. That is throwing me off. Okay, here we go. So, all right. Back to the calculator. So 3,750. So if you subtract that from 10,000, you still owe 6,250 at that point, right? So for the 10,000, after the 12.5 months have been applied, you're now going to owe $6,250, right? Did I get that right? All right. So now you're paying $300 on this, but now you have an extra $200. Okay? An extra $200. So now you're putting $500 on this. So now it's going to be $500 per month. And that is going to whittle this down a whole lot faster. Let's see, divided by 500. 12 a year, and it's 12.5 months. So look at that. So now what's going to happen is, after the snowball method, it's only going to take you 12.5 months, because 500, we did this math before. $500 times 12 months is $6,000, right? So that's 6,000 plus 250. There you go. So it's only going to take you, with snowballing, an extra 12.5 months. So all in all, you have paid on this, what was it? 12.5, 12.5. So now you've paid on this off. You've paid off 3 of your debts in 24 and a half months. I said 4 bills. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, you've paid off 3 of the 4 bills in only 24 and a half months. So now, when you pay those off, now this 50,000 one can be whittled down really fast, because now after the snowball effect, I saw that chat. Hold on one second. You're going to, now you're 24 and a half months in. So now we'll have to do the math for the, No, it'd be 25 months. What am I saying? Half and a half. So it'd be 25 months. So now after 25 months, we'll do the math for the 50,000, and then I'm a real person here. So, and y'all know math is tough. Um, we'll do the math for it. Let me see what the chat is saying. What interest are you assuming for these loans? Okay, we're not going to do interest. Good question. Chat brings up a good point. So interest does matter, right? Because the higher your interest, we're just gonna assume you got all these loans 0%, but we know that's not realistic. But if I'm just trying to get you to get the concept of what the snowball effect is, because he's actually the one in the chat. He's the one that sent me the messages. And actually, one of the things I want to do is give a shout out to my brother because he has number 5, what we were talking about before when we started this, and becoming the man you want to be in 15 years. He has consistency and he's very persistent. There's a lot going on in his life right now, and no matter what is going on in his life, he is consistently showing up to these Saturdays in the chat on time usually, and consistently asking questions, and even during the week. And that's important because if I didn't know, I don't know everything that's in Warren Buffett's brain, right? But if I was privileged enough to have a chat with him, a Discord live, I'd be asking him questions nonstop. He wouldn't be able to get rid of me. I would have to find some way to compensate him for his time because he'd be spending a lot of time with me if it was solely left up to me. He's got companies to run, like he's still on the board of Berkshire Hathaway, but get what I'm saying. When there's somebody who knows something you don't, you should be picking their brain. And don't look at it like you're bothering them. If they're going to tell you they have an open door policy, I'm walking through it. So my brother, he definitely has consistency. So thank you for the question in the chat. But I just want them to get the idea of the snowball effect. So if we took, I keep doing that. Let me just move the 401k one down here. We may not even touch on the 401k calculator, but these are all the tools I normally use when I do a Discord live on financial topics on a Saturday. I normally have the regular calculator, normally have the 401k calculator. I have Robinhood pulled up, and I have definitions. So, all right. So now what are we trying to do? We're trying to do 50,000 divided by, should we do 500? No, let's do 6,000. And that's going to take you 8.33 years to pay off if you weren't snowballing, right? So naturally, it would take you 8 years and 4 months to pay it off, right? So now we've gone 25 months. So if you did 8 years, oh shoot, I should have just left it up there, times 12. So that'd be 99.96 months. So technically, let's say 100 months. 100 months. It would take you to pay that off. Is that correct? I don't think that's correct. Hold on. It is correct. All right. I don't know. Math. I don't know. I'm not going to say I'm good on these Discords anymore with math because y'all see me in real time. And man, getting put on the spot when you're behind a camera. If I was watching somebody else, my brain would be computing it faster than they could even blink. But now that it's me on camera, it's tougher. So when y'all laugh at these content creators when they're creating videos, create some yourself and just see how good you are. All right, so it's going to take us roughly 100 months to pay off. Let's just now I'm clicking the 401 calculator. All right, so, okay. So it would normally take you about 100 months to pay off. Now let's see what we do. So if it'd be very simple, I guess. So what was it? It was 8.33 times 12. All right. So then if we subtract 25 months from that, it's saying that we have another about 75 months to pay on this. But now let's look at our snowball effect. So after 25 months, See, my brain ain't working right. Let's just get some numbers on here. This will help. All right. The $50,000 one after 25 months. So let's do, what was it? 500 times 25. It's 12,500. Now subtract that from 50,000, and that's your leftover balance. So the 50,000 at the point where you paid off the rest of everything else is now down to 37,500. Now, if you're able to endure this, you're actually doing pretty great, right? But at this point, you're going to start paying $1,000 per month. Told you I can't help it. That uniformity, I got to put the per month on there. All right, so now this is easy math. If you're paying $1,000 per month, look, it's going to take you 37 and a half months to pay off. Pretty darn easy. It's going to take you 3 years, 1.5 months. Yeah, so 37.5. It's going to throw me off again, but I've got it. 37 and a half months. Very easy math. All right, so now let's add up all the months and see how many months it took. So we know for the top 3, it took 25 months. So let's do 25 plus 37 and a half. 25 plus 37.5. All right, look, it took you a little over 5 years to pay it off. So 2.5 months. So let's just say 5, and that's almost a third. So let's do, it's probably 5 years, 3 months, right? 5 years, 3 months to have it all wiped out. And then look, now, because of your snowball effect, after 5 years and 3 months, you've wiped out all of your debt, assuming you didn't create any more and assuming these are at 0% interest. Because with interest, this isn't going to look so pretty. It's gonna take a little more, but it's gonna take a little longer. So this is why you don't go out buying new cars and paying for stuff with credit with other people's money, OPM, buying. Let me stop myself. OPM is great. Using other people's money is what you want to do, right? But that's when you're buying assets, a house. I can't think of something else, but a house, stocks, what else is an asset? Things that appreciate in value. So a house and stocks, let's just use that. If you could use OPM to do that, that would be great, especially if the interest is very low. So the house I'm in right now, I use OPM. I didn't have $680,000, but you know what? I use OPM. I got to pay it back, but I borrowed it at 3.375%, right? It's not the lowest I've ever heard of, but it ain't 5, 6, 7% either, or I wouldn't be in here. I ain't gonna do it. Even if I could afford it, that's ridiculous. Well, if I could afford it, maybe, but you get what I'm saying. All right, so the $50,000 one was going to take you 3 more years, 8.33 repeating, right? Alone to pay off. But you knocked off 3 years by doing the snowball effect. Questions, comments, and concerns in the chat. If not, we are going to move on. We're going to move quickly. Now, what is the time? 30, let's put 33 and a half. 33.5. All right. Next topic is going to be debt avalanche method. So focus on paying off the debt with the highest interest rate first, then move on to the next highest, so on and so forth. So the debt avalanche is a little different than the snowball method. The snowball method was to focus on paying off the smallest debt first, then moving on to the other ones. Now, I'm sorry, because I actually should have pulled it up. A strategy for paying off debt where you focus on paying off smaller debts first, then allocate the freed up money to the next smallest debt, and so on and so forth, snowballing your progress towards debt elimination. And the reason why this is an advantage for you that I just showed you, and it took a little bit to show you because I'm kind of scatterbrained right now, but I know what I'm doing and I've actually did this. So I wouldn't ask you to do something that I wouldn't do and I haven't done. So I use the snowball method. I only joined the Navy. Let's be real. It's not when you're not an officer coming in with a degree or something like that and you're pedigreed and mama or daddy has been in and was high up. Usually enlisted folk, it's not their first option. It's usually because they were going to go to college. They had a full ride scholarship and then they blew out their knee or something. If they were on a full ride sports scholarship, they had some kind of career ending injury that took away their scholarship. So now they can't go to college for free and they don't have the credit or whatever to borrow the money for student loans, or they just didn't want to take out the student loans, right? I've heard it all. They had an academic scholarship, went to college and partied out and flunked out of school. College wasn't for them in the first place, so they stopped going. Um, the family business that they were working for fell through. They didn't have anything else to do after high school. A friend was going down to the recruiter's office and asked them to go, and they just magically wound up signing paperwork as well. They wanted to get out of this small town. Usually, the military is not the first choice. It's actually not a bad choice, and I can say that after 16 and a half years of being in. However, it's usually not people's first choice, and it wasn't mine either. I was in a ton of debt. I was in college. Life was extremely hard back then. And I dropped school because I couldn't maintain, right? So after earning like 54 credits, I dropped out of college. So here I am today. And it was a good lesson in life, right? Stuff happens, but could I have persevered and finished college? Probably. But I took the road I took, and you can't go back, right? So here I am today telling you. Um, so when I joined the Navy, I was in a ton of debt, and I used the snowball method. I had a T-Mobile bill that was in collections that I only owed about $254, maybe 258. One of the two amounts is correct. So what did I do? Paid $100 a month. It was done in 2.5 months or 3 months if you want a round or an even number. So then I put that $100 on the next thing. That was the lowest thing. I had a Bank of America credit card that was in collections. I got a 4 grand bonus when I joined the Navy, and after they pulled all the tax out of it, I didn't get. I got a few thousand, and so I wiped out the Bank of America credit card slowly over time. I saved a lot of that money, but I wiped out the Bank of America credit card with the extra $100 I had on the other one. I put some of the bonus money on that card, and then I used the snowball method. Now I'm putting $200 on it a month. Now, when I paid off that Bank of America credit card, I remember 1492. I put those $200 to the next thing, which I had a repossessed Nissan Sentra. It was a 2006. It got repossessed like the end of March 2008. And I paid that off by using the snowball method. Now I've got an extra $200 to put on that. And when that was paid off, now I started putting it on the student loans, right? And so I've used this method. I know it works. All right. So I'm always using the snowball method if I have debt. Now, let me see. Now, he put in here, and he's right. Um, the cons of using that method is that it may take longer to pay off the higher interest debts, right? Which is why the next one is the debt avalanche method. So let's put that in here. Avalanche method. Here we go. The debt avalanche method is a debt repaying strategy where you prioritize paying off debts with the highest interest rates first, allocating extra funds to those debts while making minimum payments on the others, ultimately saving money on interest charges. Now, one of the biggest things about this, and actually he's very thorough on this. He put it in here. The pros is it saves you money and interest over time, right? However, the con, it can be harder to stay motivated since the first few debts may take longer to pay off. And that is true. If you now, let's say you had, let's go back to our four, right? You would hope you would hope these debts are in order of like the 500, 2,000, 10,000, 5,000. You would hope that this is in order of interest rates as well, because no, you wouldn't. You would hope that the interest rates were reversed. You had higher interest on the $500 than you do on the 50,000. You would hope the interest rates are reversed. And I say for two reasons. One, because if you had 24% interest on $500, it's not going to be a lot of money per month. If you had 18% on the 2,000, same thing. If you had 12% on the 10,000, same thing. If you had 6% on the 50,000, same thing, right? Well, actually, no. The 10,000 gets more and the 50,000 gets more because it's 6% on the 50,000 or whatever your principal interest is, right? It gets to be more money. So if you had the higher interest on the lower stuff, maybe it does take you longer than 5 months. Maybe it takes you 6 months to pay off that $500 bill. And then, so just add a month to everything, basically. It's probably going to be more months to the 10 and the 50,000 though. But that's the avalanche debt method, right? So if, let's say, the $2,000 per month ends up being the highest interest, this is what you would do. It'd be the difference in doing this. Let me see, text. So let's say the $2,000. If I did the other one, I'm gonna do this one. So I'm gonna put it for all my visual learners. Let's say your $2,000 a month equal 24% interest, right? 24%. So instead of what you would do, instead of paying $100 on the $500 bill, that is not a dollar sign, sir. What you would do is pay the minimum. So let's say the minimum was $50 a month. You pay $50 a month on the 500, and then you would end up paying $150 per month on the $2,000 one. Right? Does that make sense? So avalanche method, if we look at the definition again, we're focused on the high interest. So the highest interest out of these four here is the $2,000 one. So you pay the minimum payment on the $100 one. Let's say the minimum payment was only $25. So now you take that other 25, you add it here. Now you're paying $175 on the $2,000 one. That's the avalanche, the debt avalanche method, right? There's the definition again. All right, number 3. Let's look at debt consolidation. All right. No, let's do debt consolidation method. Let's do meaning. Here we go. Debt consolidation means combining multiple debts into a single loan or credit card, simplifying repayment with one monthly payment and potentially a lower interest rate. So debt consolidation looks like this. Instead of having all four of these bills and different amounts coming out, so basically you're paying 500, 800, 100, 100, that's $1,000. So 500 plus 500 a month, what you could do is go to a debt consolidation company. You can Google them, they're all over the place. And you can say, hey, I have 5062.5. I have $62,500 worth of debt. And since we did the other ones, let's move that text box up and out of the way. Let's move Snowball up and out of the way. Let's move this one up and out of the way. All right, now give me another text box. I want it over here. I'm gonna move my screen over. Actually, if the screen is all the way over, let's put it over here. Sorry. All right, here we go. I spelled that wrong. Jesus, Mary and Joseph. Consolidation. There's no spell check on this one, so y'all seeing that in real time too. I'm a real person, ain't no AI over here. So for debt consolidation, you would add all debts together underneath one loan or credit card. All right. So instead of having all these different interests, you could get rid of that 24%. Hopefully the 24%, if you're going to consolidate, it was something that was hard to pay off. But basically what you could do is, let's say the average interest on your 62, let's add all the debts together first. Hold on. 62,500. All right. Let's say your average interest was 18% on the 4, right? Oh, that's going to confuse people. Hold on. Let's say the average interest on the 4 was 18%. Now you add them all together and they give you a percentage of 9%. So what happens is they will pay off. If you agree to this, they will go to, let's say this is Chase, Bank of America, Honda Financial, because you bought a car, and this is Sally Mae, Navient. Sally Mae and Navient were chasing me in my sleep for many years until 2020, about April. Paid it off. All right. So let's say they give you an interest of 9%. And now this could save you if you made minimum payment on 9%. And let's say the monthly payment was, instead of 1,000, let's say it was 700 per month. So now this is giving you $300 back in your hand to spend on something else. Hopefully you're not going to be dumb and you do put it on the principal of this loan. You pay your 700, which is required, and use the other 300 to pay on the principal. Because remember, when you pay interest, you're paying interest to the principal loan amount. What does that mean? That means if you paid $700 on this loan on the first month, let's do the calculator, visual learners, 62,500 minus 700. Did I do that right? Yeah. All right. So you would owe $61,800. The 9% interest is going to come out of that. What is left over every month, that gets hit with the interest. So that's what you're paying it off of. So the faster you pay that down. So if you paid an extra 300 and it hit straight to the some of that $700 is going to be interest, right? So um, but let's say your first payment is that, right? So it goes straight to the principal. Well, it wouldn't do that because let's say with $62,550 is principal and there's $150 of interest charged on it. So you're actually not paying down the interest as fast as you would think. I don't want to get into the interest. Oh, Jesus, I just messed this all up. But basically, what would happen is if only $500 was going to the interest, I mean, going to the loan, because you have $200 worth of interest every month. What would happen is now you would owe 62,000, and you would pay the fee, the $200 worth of interest burned up. You never see it again. So now you're paying down your loan actually slower. So if you put the extra 300 on the principal, your next interest charge will be lower than $200. Does that make sense? Hopefully that's as clear as mud. But that's how interest works. All right. So did we cover all of this? So debt consolidation can actually help you. Um, did I already read the pros and cons? I think I did. Lower interest rates, and you manage one payment instead of four. So instead of paying four different lenders, you're only paying one, and the interest could be lower, and the monthly payment that you were paying before could actually be lower. I've done this too. I've done this. I've used consolidation. One of the cons is that and I basically said this too. If you have poor spending habits, you could fall back into debt because that extra money it's saving you. If you think, oh, Gucci bags and Jordans and all that stupid stuff, spending it all on stuff that you don't need, you could fall back into debt. And now you create two more loans. Let's say, oh, I consolidated, I saved $300. Let me go get another car. So you get another car and your payment is $300, right? Between, let's say it's a used car, but your payment is between insurance and your car payment is $500. Now you just increase the amount of money you were paying in the first place from the four different debts, and now you put yourself in the whole 200 extra dollars. That so poor spending habits. This conversation isn't really for you if you've got poor spending habits and you're not going to stop. This is for people who want to get out of debt and who are going to be disciplined, right? Persistence is key. Consistency. All right. So let me mark the time 53. Now we're going to move over to balance transfer credit cards. Now um, this is a great topic actually. We're going to have to do a second segment uh, of this one. We're going to have to do a part two. So balance transfers. Let's see. A balance transfer involves moving existing debt from one credit card or loan to another, often a card with a lower interest or promotional offer. That would be the reason why you would do it. Now, let's go back to the whiteboard because we were talking about the $2,000. I think I said this was Bank of America credit card, right? Let's say there was 24% interest on this. So then let's say you opened up, let's start a new one. We know how we do for each topic. Let's say Navy Federal is offering a $10,000 limit with 9% interest, right? Which it's a credit union. It's probably one of the best credit unions out there, if you ask me. So let's say it's only charging 9%. What you could then do is take your Bank of America credit card, transfer $2K over to the Navy Fed card. Sorry. This is the card, right? $10,000 limit with 9%. That's on new purchases, right? But let's say it has a promotion, because this would be why you would want to do it in the first place, right? What am I doing? I forgot the word I was writing. So the promotional rate on transfers might be 0% for 12 to 18 months. That's the usual, right? So now what you do is you say, oh, shoot, Navy Federal's gonna, if I open up a Navy Federal card, now you have to have a good credit score to do this, right? And you need to have your DTI, your debt to income ratio needs to be good. So if your debt to income ratio sucks and you're working 40 hours a week and you're not making ends meet, it's time to pick up some extra hours. You need to be working 60 to 80 hours a week. If you can't do that because you're on salary, then you need gig work. Start driving Uber. Use that used car that you are paying all this money for. Put that sticker in the window and gets to driving, because that's going to earn you more money. You have to out earn your debt. And then you can't out save your debt. You have to out earn your debt, right? Welcome. I see you just joined in. All right. So if you have a promotional rate on the Navy Federal credit card for 0% for 12 to 18 months, what you then do is you switch that $2,000 on your Bank of America credit card to the Navy Federal card. Because now if you paid, what were we paying on this card? We were paying $100 a month. It's going straight to the principal on the card with no interest. Now all you have to do, if it's 12 months, you have to increase this to pay it off in the amount of time before that 12 months expires. So if, let's say, $2,000 divided by 100, that's going to take you 20 months. So that's going to take you almost 2 years to pay off. You're going to have to increase what you're paying on this card. So if you want to pay $2,000 off in 12 months, you need to be paying at least $167 per month. All right? And that's how you do that. But that's how you would pay that card off and pay no more interest on that balance. Does that make sense? That is how you do it. All right? So let's do one more, because we're actually over 1 o'clock. But let's cover this this last topic. Let me mark the time. 58:15. All right. This is so I can put the chapters in here. So now debt settlement. We'll talk about debt settlement. What is debt settlement? Is it on here? No. Meaning, here we go. All right, so debt settlement is a process where a borrower negotiates with creditors to pay a reduced amount of their debt, often in exchange for a lump sum payment instead of the full amount owed. Now, I've also done this. So it's kind of, you might think it's kind of shysty. So, but all right, closed mouths don't get fed. So let me explain what debt settlement is. All right, so let's say you couldn't pay this $2,000 debt and you didn't pay on it at all, and it went to collections as $2,000. Let's say it was less than that. The payments and the interest kept stacking up, and then after 90 days they say, you know what, I'm done dealing with you, you're not going to pay on this, we're going to send it to a collections company. So the collections company, it's a debt collections company, they just call it collections for short. What happens is, now the Bank of America, because that's what that card was, right? Bank of America will say, I'm going to sell this debt to a debt collection company. They're going to pay for it. Now they're going to come after you for it, because now they own your debt, right? So now you'll get letters and emails and phone calls from the debt collection company, because now they own your debt. And so let's say you call them and you say, listen, I can't pay this whole $2,000. Debt collections. What I can do is I can pay $1,000. I can pay $1,500, and that's all I have. I don't have any extra income a month to pay anything else. It went to collections. I told the bank that's all I have, and that's all I'm going to be able to pay. So debt collections will say, well, let's see. They'll play hardball with you at first, but let's get down to the meat and potatoes. They'll say, you know what? 1.5 is better than 0. They could not pay us anything, and then it is charged off, and it's on your credit report for 7 whole years, right? Before it just falls off, right? So, you know what? Let's collect 3/4 of the debt, right? Is that correct? Yeah, 3/4 of the debt, because we might not get anything. So we'll take it. We'll take 1,500, and then they'll settle your debt, and that debt will be paid. And on your credit report, it will now show up as that debt is paid, right? But here's the key to doing this. I'm going to give you some game. I'm going to tell you you can do even better than that. So some people I know, and it sounds wrong because it is wrong. If you borrow money, you should pay it back. However, some people, and this is kind of stupid because it's going to damage your credit report, right? Some people, if they know they can't pay a debt, or it's going to take them a while, or they're just kind of lazy about it, right? What they will do is they will let it go to collections because it's only $2,000, right? And they'll say, I've got 1,200, I've got 1,500, but if they agree to accept it in order to close the account and say the debt is paid, they will say, if I give you this, I need it pulled off of my credit report. And they'll play hardball, but they'll say, well, you're not going to get it then. I'll just use it to pay something else. And then they'll say, no, we'll take it off your credit report. So they make them send them a letter or put it in an email saying that they'll take it off of their credit report, right? If they pay them the 1,500. So now that you have that in a letter or an email, you could take them to court if they didn't pull it off your credit report, because now it's legally binding. So, and make sure it's got letterhead on it, right? It's the letterhead one. So they'll send you the letter saying, yeah, if you pass the 1,500 by whatever date, we'll take it off your credit report. So now you pay them the $1,500, and they'll remove it. Now, you have how quickly does credit reports update? Once a month. Once a month. I don't know the exact day, but you have Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. They only update once a month because lenders only report once a month. So it's not going to be the next day. So check it in a month. If it's not off of there, now you call the collections company back like, hey, WTF or WTH, whichever one you want to say, right? I recommend just asking them what happened, but you can say it if you want to. And they'll tell you, oh, well, we didn't report it until the end of the month. So by the next month, it should fall off. When you check it the next month, if it's still there, you call them back, right? But it should be off there by the next month. In about 2 months, it should be off of there, depending on when they reported it. That's how you get that negative report off of your credit report. And then your credit score will go up because it's now been removed and it's not being reported. There's some game for you because y'all are watching The Blacksmith. All right. And again, I've done this and it definitely works. Now, so the pros of this, doing the debt consolidation, what was it, debt settlement, is that you could potentially pay less money than what you actually owed them, right? But I already know what the con is. It's going to affect your credit score, right? So you know what? It's going to take too long and extend this episode if I do it. But on your credit report, if you've never seen it, I'm going to probably bring up a credit report for next month, maybe on the part 2. Let me make a note for that. So part 2, I'll bring up a credit report. And it's going to show an account, and it's going to show 24 months. It's like a little table. It shows 12 months across up here, 12 months down here. It's just a little table, and it has the little sections, January to December, January to December, 24 months. And if all of them are green, your credit score is going to go up, right? Because the parts of your credit score, and we need to talk about that, 35, 30, 15, 10, 10. Those are the percentages that different things affect your your credit report. So you have the amount of debt owed, your credit history, the amount of accounts open, and yada yada. So that's what makes up your credit report. Maybe I should do that too. Excuse me. Credit score breakdown. So we've got some topics for next week already. I'll do a breakdown of that. Now, if you don't know this stuff, don't feel bad. I'm going to tell you, I guess the older you are, the worse you're going to feel about not knowing this stuff. But listen, you don't know what you don't know, right? And as dumb as that sounds, it's also true. Don't be too hard on yourself for what you don't know. What you do need to do, though, if you want to learn this stuff, is you need to do a cleanse. All right. And I'm not talking about eating spinach and drinking kombucha. No, what I mean is take these little flat screen TVs we carry around in our pocket, right? Cleanse yourself from this garbage, because this thing can do a lot. This thing can hook up the satellites. This thing can watch people walking around on New York City corners in real time. This thing can shut the power down in Nevada if you knew how to do that. If you do, I didn't tell you to do it. Excuse me. I don't know why I'm sneezing, but this thing is very powerful. What this is not a phone. Stop being fooled by that. We call them phones. This thing is a supercomputer that has the ability to make, or functionality to make, phone calls. It's no longer phones. Before they became iPhones, the first smartphone in 2007, they were phones that also had the ability to get onto a very slow network internet, that also had the ability to watch TV. I had a Verizon Voyager, and it had a little antenna. It was a flip phone, had a touch screen on when it was flipped closed, and when you flipped it open, it had a keypad on it and stuff. I'm old, but those were actual phones with other abilities. These are supercomputers. That's why you pay like $1,200 for these. And what you need to do is cleanse from all the social media junk, because my wife mixed me a protein shake, right? At home protein shakes, homemade. You know what I'm saying? That's a good wife. This cup is full, right? With what she put in here: protein powder, banana. There's some, I was being fat this morning, so I went to Target and I got some Nutter Butter cookies. She put a couple of those in there. It's guilty pleasure. I enjoy sweets from time to time. And whatever else is in here, right? But my point is, this cup is full. If the cup is already full with a protein shake, how much water can it fit? None, right? So if you wanted water, you needed water in here, what would you have to do? You first have to drink some of this or dump some of it out. And we work the same way. We are vessels. If we already are full with nonsense and entertainment and useless information, then we won't be hungry. We won't have an appetite for stuff that we actually need. And you need to be financially literate, right? And I always like to quote people. So I always quote Warren Buffett. If you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you're working till you die. But the blacksmith himself always also comes up with sayings. And here's one that I came up with. Perpetual entertainment is the end of a man's CMD: creativity, motivation, and drive. If you are addicted to these smartphones, if you're addicted to these supercomputers, and the entertainment they provide, you will never be financially literate. So you will never hit your goals and aspirations in life because you're constantly looking at other people claiming that they hit theirs because, on IG, people only show the highlight reel. So, and showing the best parts of their lives, vacations, private jets, and all this kind of stuff. And you'll be walking in a winter wonderland, but it'll be somebody else's, not your own. Put this thing down, cleanse yourself from this, and you need to watch more content like this. There are other people out here who are more famous, who have more followers, subscribers, but it doesn't matter who you watch. It's the type of information that you're watching. If I grab your phone, or if you hand me your phone and open YouTube, what algorithm am I gonna see when I look and I scroll through your shorts and the recommended videos? If it's what I'm assuming a lot of folks have, then it's a bunch of junk. My algorithm is going to be boring to most people. It's going to be Wall Street Trapper talking about what the stock market is doing. But that's the guy I learned about what REITs were, real estate investment trust, high dividend yielding stocks. That's the guy I learned that from. It's going to be Earn Your Leisure, bringing on another entrepreneur that became a millionaire from rags to riches. Those are the guys I follow for Money Market Mondays, right? And they tell you where the stock market is going, what break down a stock. They show you options and all this kind of stuff. My algorithm is going to be boring to most people because it's littered with financial literacy. And that's what yours needs. All right. That's going to do it for this week's edition. Oh, wait, chat said something. Part two. Yeah, there's going to be a part two. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There's going to be a part two. It has to be. Because actually, before I go, since you joined us a little late, my brother actually sent 9 different topics to talk about. I'll say them all here right now. So to rehash the first 5, the first one we went over was the debt snowball method, paying off debt by paying off the smallest debt first. Hold on one second. Sorry, I had to blow my schnoz, and I didn't want y'all to hear the trumpet sound that was going to happen. So debt snowball method, it's paying off the balance, the lowest balance first, and then use the money that you were paying on that balance, like $100, to then snowball onto the next lowest balance you have. We talked about debt avalanche method, paying off the debt that you have that has the highest interest versus balance first. And then we talked about debt consolidation, bringing those 4 different loans into one and paying one payment, and it could save you money per month, and it can be a lower interest. We talked about transferring credit card balances to another card that may have a promotional 0% interest for 12 to 18 months is going to be the usual. So now you pay that balance off with 0% interest. We talked about debt settlement. We just talked about that one. But he also sent refinancing, right? Increasing your income, which that one's simple, but I'll go into detail about that. Budgeting and cutting expenses, and then seeking professional help. I'm going to tell you right now, I am not a licensed financial advisor, but I'm just a dude with experience, and I know a lot because I study a lot. I don't play games when it comes to money, and nor should you, right? We all want to retire one day, right? And retirement, who can say what that age looks like? But I can tell you this, if you don't plan for retirement, you're not going to. Retirement is not something that just jumps out the bushes and grabs you at 65 and says, it's over, you're done. No, what's going to happen is you're going to reach a point where you no longer want to work. That's really what retirement is. The point at which a person not wants to, the point at which a person no longer works, right? And at that point. It's like playing the game of life from Hasbro, right? And if you've never played it, when you reach the retirement point in the game, you don't necessarily win. You went through the board faster than other people. What happens is when the fourth person finishes, what happens is they add up all of their debts and add up all of their assets. So if they never bought a house, you don't have that. You cash them all out. You cash out all your assets. So that's usually your house, your retirement fund, all that stuff. And you add up all your debts that you owe. You subtract the two, and the person with the highest asset amount wins the game, right? That's how it works in real life too. Because when you reach 65, somebody said 65 to me yesterday or 2 days ago. And I'm like, okay, let's take 65. So when you reach 65, if you no longer want to work and then you cash out all your assets, or you look at all your assets versus your debt, and you got $2,000 left in your name, brother, go back in on Monday. It's Friday. Just playing. I'm coming back Monday, and you need to start working again. Because how are you going to retire? Who's going to take care of you? If you don't have enough money to take care, if you only plan on living to 65 years and 6 months, maybe you can stretch that $2,000 for another 6 months, right? But if you hit 65 and you don't have the money to stop working and be supported by your money, i.e., you reach the point at which you no longer have to trade time for money, but your money works for you to where you don't have to. That's the Blacksmith Podcast definition of retirement. You reach a point where you have invested enough money, you've worked for enough money, you traded time for enough money that you've invested, and it grew over time to where now, if you didn't work, your money now earns enough money to support you the rest of your life. That is true retirement. Because if you hit 65 and you no longer want to work, you're now going to be a burden on your children or your family. And who wants to make children just to become a burden on them? I do believe, if my parents couldn't work anymore, that, taking them in would be the right thing to do. They raised me up, right? But who wants to plan to be a burden? Who says, I'm going to have 4 children because you know what? In 40 years, they'll take care of me. I don't have to do a thing. That's not what you plan on doing, but failure to plan is planning to fail, right? So you plan for retirement. So if you don't have a 401k, 403b, a TSP, some kind of retirement account, individual retirement account, an IRA, then you are already messing up. Because that money is supposed to be compounding interest as you are working year after year after year. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch some of the other Discords. I use this calculator right here, and I show exactly how, you know what? I'm so sorry, folks. Chat, why didn't you tell me this? I don't think I was sharing my screen the entire time. Or was it up on the screen? Maybe it was. I don't know. I didn't push share screen until now. But whatever. Hopefully, well, I know OBS had it up. So I got fooled looking at OBS. I'm sorry. Look, I'm a real person and operator error happens. Anyway, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and watch one of the Discords, and it talks about why you need a retirement plan or something like that. I use this calculator and I actually show you how compound interest works over the course of 30 years, 20 years, 40 years, 50 years. And you'll be amazed. People can become millionaires in just, their network becomes that much because they compounded all their money over the years. So anyway, folks, that's going to do it for this rendition of our Saturday morning financial literacy session. The Forge is going to go close, but going to go cold. And join me next week for our topics. If you are in the Discord group, in the investing text channel, which you can see on the screen right there. Put topics that you want me to cover, and I will come on here and cover it. If you're watching this on YouTube and you have a topic that you'd like to see covered, and you're not in the Discord group, you can email me at the Blacksmith Podcast at gmail.com with a topic that you would like covered. I could probably cover some of them in shorts, but I like to come on the live. You get a full hour, and sometimes it runs long, the hour and a half. But I like to respect people's time. But there's a lot to say. There's a lot of information to get out there to you. The Forge is going cold. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you next Saturday. Have a great day.